Okay. You are now recording.
Okay, great. Call the subcommittee on communications to order, and we'll do introductions really quick. I see that I'm Exalatel. I'm here. Felix?
Yeah, Felix Rivera.
Okay, and then Chris Constant has let us know he couldn't make it today, and Austin will be logging on in just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get started. And really, the main item on our agenda today is some information that Felix wanted to share with us. So take it away, Felix.
Thanks. Yeah, like I shared at the last Rules Committee meeting, and I don't think Barbara planned for this to happen, but because of COVID-19, or Erica, COVID-19 got 150,000, not COVID-19, elections had $150,000 left in the bank because of COVID-19. And so that money is there to use, and I asked Meg to call this meeting so I can get guidance from the communications subcommittee, who's been doing a lot of thinking around this before assembly leadership sort of made the decision one way or another how to move forward. So with that, there are a list of ideas that I talked with assembly leadership about yesterday, and they're based on ideas that I know that this group has had, at least some of them, and we've also talked about when we were creating the priorities. So I'll go through that, and then, yeah, we'd just love to get feedback and thoughts. So first is using all or part of that 150,000 solely on communications surrounding homelessness. Second idea, and I guess third idea, they're both in tandem, is hiring a full-time communications person for the rest of 2020. Or second idea is a morph, hiring someone part-time communications for the rest of 2020 and then using the rest of the money to contract out specific small projects. Third was the development of individual websites. And then fourth idea was a redo of the assembly website. A lot of these ideas, I think, would be encapsulated in just sort of the broader bucket of using the funds generally through a contractor to achieve certain goals. Talking with the assembly leadership yesterday, the thrust that I got was it's easier in terms of process and in terms of future planning if we use these funds through a contractor rather than trying to bring on an employee. And I think that pretty much sums up the conversation we had yesterday.
Great, thanks. Barbara, Jennifer, Erica, do you guys have anything you want to add to this conversation before we might do some more discussion?
Well, I will just echo what Felix said. What an odd situation that we had extra money because of COVID-19, but we're happy to put it to this use.
I just wanted to add that I think you'll want to add into your thinking how to, I mean, this money is for this year, but how to make changes sort of permanent. I mean, if you were to hire someone or even have a contract and you get some really great work out of that, and then suddenly, boom, January 1st, it goes away, I don't think that'll be very satisfying. So thinking, there's a term and I can't remember what it is right now, but thinking about how to sustainable change, to use this as sort of a nest egg for sustainable. change in what you want to see happening.
I'll weigh in quickly. What I told Felix yesterday was that I sort of love the idea of you using part of this money for a contractor, because I think that you'll be able to get some targeted work done on things that are really important to you. And there are downsides to bringing on another employee. And you can use, I think with $150,000, or at least even part of that, you could get a lot of high quality work out of a PR firm or someone here. And then I didn't say this yesterday, but I also like the idea of using part of these funds to redo the Assembly website, because I know that you can hire someone to come in and do some design work, because one of the departments at the city, I'm blanking on which one, but somebody did that both through a grant and funds. So I like that idea as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I know that Mr. Constant, through our prior committees, has put the assembly website design kind of at the top of his list over and over again, particularly to the extent that it can facilitate finding past items. I think everything you mentioned, Felix, is in line with what we've been discussing as a communication subcommittee. I have to agree that I think a contractor makes sense, and that there could be lots of discrete projects within that request that all work together for a more sustainable whole, where it could really build some foundational things that we could then utilize moving forward, whether that's web page design, or even we've talked a little bit about how to create some communications templates and structure. And we just don't feel like we necessarily have all that expertise to do that. So I kind of stalling a little bit here for Austin. I know she was a part of the leadership conversation, but would definitely like her to weigh in on this too. Do we have, what's your timeline?
So I think what we'll likely do is next week we will make the final decision during leadership meeting, and then inform the assembly. Likely, it sounds like we're going to be going through this contractor route. So I will rely on Jennifer and others to guide me on whether that's contracting out with one firm or doing it sort of each individual project, or what that looks like. I think Barbara reminded me, I think it's 30,000 is the limit where we have to go to the assembly for approval.
That is correct.
So likely, once I get that guidance from Jennifer and the team, it'll be some weeks before you see something at an assembly meeting asking for approval of use of the funds.
Okay, great. I know it's a little bit further down in the agenda, but I think it's very relevant to the conversation we're having. I have been working on a website design. Oh, go ahead, Barbara.
I think that one of the issues that we need to talk about is how the contracting process will work. And unfortunately, that is time consuming. I think we need to get some specs set up, what it is that you expect. And I think that you probably need at least three quotes from, firms or contractors. And so that's the MOA purchasing process that I'm just going to tell you it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think that you're going to be able to sole source this and pick whoever you want. So we can get that going for you too.
And I think along with that is sort of what Barbara was saying, is that Felix, and maybe with the help of the communications subcommittee, is need to do some sort of scope of work of what it is you want from a firm, and for us to be able to put the feelers out and get some quotes back from them.
So welcome to Austin Quinn Davidson. Thanks for joining us. We've just been talking.
I'm late, you guys. I had a medical appointment and it went over. I apologize.
No worries. We were talking about things that the Assembly leadership's already talked about, so you're kind of already in the loop. We've just been talking about the funds and communications, and it sounds like that the recommended course of action from the clerk's office and kind of inconsistent with the communications goals is to look at a subcontractor or a contractor of some sort to carry out some things, and that we probably need to help define that scope of work. And then Barbara was just telling us it would probably have to go out for competitive solicitation, but that we could frame that through getting some quotes first to know what we would have, like what we could expect. I think that is a quick summary. Go ahead, Barbara.
So just to clarify, there are two purchasing processes. One is a request for quotes. If you request quotes, you go with the lowest bidder. If you do an RFP, that is much more complicated, and then you have different criteria, and you can select a contractor based on their criteria. So there are two different processes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. I mean, my thought is that if we're doing several foundational pieces around communications, like a municipal website and maybe some communications templates or platforms, we probably want to look at one person for consistency's sake in terms of design and visuals and how, you know, that messaging may move forward. But that's just my opinion. Anyone else have any thoughts about if we would need to look at multiple individuals or just one?
One makes sense to me for the same reasons you raised, Meg. Also, just for efficiency, I think instead of trying to contract different people to do different things, it makes sense to find a shop that can handle all the things we're maybe looking at.
Okay, great. Felix, do you need more from us, or is that enough?
I think that's enough. I think there are enough parts here where I can work with Jennifer and the team to develop a scope. And then part of that scope will likely be, other projects as we think of them. But 150,000 probably will easily get spent with some of the things we're thinking of.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I would, I guess since we're missing Mr. Constant, as we talk about the scope, I can check in with him and see if there's anything else on the top of his list beyond the Assembly webpage. But that, I believe that's the impression I have, that that's his number one issue over and over again. Austin, do you think that's an accurate characterization?
That sounds accurate to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to jump in on that, so I actually had a good conversation, Barbara, with Barbara yesterday about what Chris keeps bringing up again and again, and so I don't think it's going to be necessarily part of this 150,000. What the specific thing that Chris is asking for, that is going to be there's actually a project that's already created under the Agenda Evolution project to do what Chris is asking for. And so we're going to be bringing Chris in to help out and move that forward. But it looks like all the funding and everything is already captured under Agenda Evolution.
Oh, fantastic. Jennifer.
I was basically just going to say what Felix said, and that I think what you all are looking for in communications is a PR firm with design skills and communication skills. And what Chris is asking for is sort of more of a back-end data-driven project and how we push it out. So those seem to be two different things, all still going towards a common goal. But so I agree with Felix.
Okay, great. So I'm going to kind of swap the items on the agenda a little bit because I think it moves into this conversation before we go back and revisit the Navigator program. Is I have been working on a website build with someone, and so I have a little preview of it. If I can share my screen correctly, it's like a minute. Like she made like a little movie that shows kind of the navigation of it, and then so it's just there's no sound. But the idea is just a website. So I've been really happy that it lets me put some of my, it all says text now. This is an older iteration, but in terms of my work, it didn't take much. I used someone with a bit more with skills that I don't have to do that work. And then all I have to do is provide the content. And then in the future, the back end, all I have to do is go and update the content as relevant. So I wanted to just share that really quick. We hope to put it live in the next couple of weeks. It's all waiting on me, I will admit, for the rest of the content. The designer did it really quick, actually, in about a week turnaround. And I was able to pick everything in terms of colors. We're going to work on a little bit of update on images, and then having the pages work so that if I post the links to something into Facebook, it's a really nice preview of what you would be clicking back into, which I guess I didn't know that much about. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys if you still are at all thinking about websites, and I would be happy to share individually with anyone both that person's information who designed it, as well as just kind of more about the process. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I went ahead and just jumped forward and did it because I felt like I wasn't going to ever get progress unless kind of could show what it might look like. So.
Looks great.
Thank you. Very talented artist here in town. I chose an artist who also does web design because she was able to take my words and make them into a visual, which is really helpful for me. All right. We next have the Navigator program. We put it on as unfinished business because I wanted to circle back and see what else we need to do. Or maybe give us all the gentle reminder that we probably need to give Barbara feedback. And I am guilty of not having gotten that done yet myself.
Me too.
That is a-okay. So here is what I've done. I know that it's too long, and I had a hard time getting the proposal more succinct. So I asked Erica to take a look at it. And so let Erica take a look at it. I told her to like slash and burn all of the redundancies and get it a little bit tighter. And then I can't remember exactly what her deadline is, but it'll be within a week or so. Is that right, Erica? And then we'll get the slashed and burned version out to all of you. And then I can give you a deadline, and I'll probably give you, let me know, is a week or 2 weeks enough?
It would be my preference a shorter deadline so it doesn't get buried, quite honestly. Especially if it's in that week between meetings, that's usually like the sweet spot to get to something else.
Good. We'll plan on that, and we'll make sure that happens. And then that way we should be able to launch it, beginning in August and before our next meeting of the subcommittee.
Great. And it'll be really great that if it's launched about that time, as we work back into community council and the like, we can be out there promoting it and talking about it. So be something new and exciting to come back into community council with. Any other questions about the Navigator program or comments? Okay, we just ticked right through everything today. That's fantastic. Do we have anyone who wants to provide audience participation? I believe we only have one individual, 503-720-9227. And if you're on the phone, you press *6, I believe, to unmute. Oh, okay. And yes, we were supposed to talk about the future meeting schedule. Sorry, that's my oversight. So we wanted to put meetings on kind of a regular schedule once a month. And we can talk about it, but then we'll just want to go back and verify with Mr. Constant in terms of availability. I had suggested potentially either I have to go look again what I had suggested.
I think you said, Meg, on potentially a Thursday after the CEDC meetings.
Yeah, so we do CEDC until 10:30 on Thursday, and we are pretty good about wrapping that up right on time. And I didn't know if folks, Austin is a member of that, and so is Chris, if it would make sense in your schedules just to roll into communications subcommittee or not, or if you had other things going. I usually have that block after that meeting quiet until the afternoon, unless it's other outside of assembly obligations.
That would totally work for me. The only caveat is that on some of those Thursdays, we go into the utility and enterprise committee. So it would just make sure to make it on a week that doesn't have that.
Perfect. Yep. Okay, well, I'll just confirm that with Mr. Constant, and if that works with the clerk's office, then I think that will probably be best. And I think since that meeting usually ends on time, CEDC, maybe we could start at 10:45, so it's not a big gap. It would be different when we switch to in-person, though, because CEDC is over. Although if all three of us are over there, I don't know, we could talk about that if we get back in person. If all three members of the subcommittee are over at the permit center, if there's any way to maybe facilitate it in place. But while we're using Teams, I don't think we need a large gap in between the two.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. Anything else that we should have on our radars or to be thinking about moving into the future?
Meg, I would like to discuss the report to the committee that Jennifer sent to you. And I just want to really highlight the social media and Facebook analytics. So after our last meeting, you know, Anna resigned, and Jennifer and I had, I'll just call it a rah-rah meeting with Travis and Kiana. We really, and I've talked to you a little bit about what I call task-based teams at a previous Rules Committee meeting. This is a task-based team, and Travis is the team lead, and Kiana and Jennifer and I are also on the team. And the work they have done in that month has just been phenomenal. And one of the projects was reporting on their statistics. So the statistics came out at the beginning of July, and I just have to tell you, our Facebook engagement was up 215%. And we had a post reach, and we know this is due to Anita Shell's recognition resolution. Our post reach was up 250%, and we got 28 new followers, which is up 33%. Thanks, Jennifer. Anyway, I'm just really, really proud of this. And it's a credit to the clerk staff, but it also is a credit to our new task-based team. So I just wanted to point that out to you.
Wow, fantastic. you guys are doing, I think you guys are doing an amazing job. It's always our go-to to tell people if they want to keep up with what's going on, to follow the clerk's Facebook page. Felix, Austin, and I include it even in the newsletter that goes out each month. Because it's really a great way. You guys do a really fantastic job of kind of framing what's happening from the Assembly's point of view within the municipality. And I know I really appreciate that. So kudos, fantastic. And fantastic to Travis and all the team members who've been leading this charge.
I'll let them know that. Thank you, Meg.
Yep.
Yeah, nice job.
And
Hey,
Meg, I would say too, oh, sorry, go ahead, Austin.
I was going to ask if, when I was gone, if you guys discussed the kind of rolling screen. Maybe we're doing Navigator instead. Maybe we're doing both. But I think there was some discussion of putting that in the 2021 budget rather than using the 150 for that. But I didn't know if you guys had talked about that and if we should touch on it.
We hadn't, but we certainly could. And I don't know who would like to speak on it, but Meg, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll start. The rolling screen idea was something that I think, just based on prior rules committee discussions and discussions with members, has been top of mind for several folks for a while now. And so talked with Assembly leadership about what's the most realistic way to get it done. And the decision was, we're just going to ask to put it in the 2021 budget. That's where we ended up with that. So it's going to be an increase in our budget to fund the expense for the rolling screen. Desiree is still doing the work to determine how much that's going to be. And I think we're planning to turn in the budget at the end of the week. So that's where we have been, at least as of yesterday.
Okay, anything else on that one? Is that good, Austin, or did you have any more questions about the plan?
No, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that this group was in the loop on that since we had discussed it yesterday.
Okay, great. Well, I have to say I'm pleased that we've been ticking along on the communications goals, I think, quite well. Big thanks to the clerk's office for helping us realize several of those goals. I feel like we're doing an okay job communicating with the public, and that COVID has presented us some challenges, but that we've met them head on, and that we're still making sure that we are getting good communication structure, or good communication and connections between people. And I look forward to the continued work and bringing it all forward. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn, and we'll firm up the meeting schedule via email.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.